Three, two, one. Assalamu alaikum, people. You're tuning into the Let's Walk podcast. I'm your host, Ata, and today I'm joined by Temoore. For people who are listening, that's not the term. I'm not talking about the Temoore, the Saif Ali Khan's son, but I'm talking about Temoore Raja. He's a fellow content creator and a recent graduate. Temoore, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Atta.
So, Temoore, I want you to dive a little bit into like your journey from high school. Did you ever think that you'll get into content creation and whatnot like in high school?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. I always kind of wanted to be like a YouTuber, but I just never really got the time in college. I kind of got occupied with like my studies and stuff. Um, and then I also had my dad also got sick with lung cancer in high school, so I kind of had to start like prioritizing my education. I was also the oldest, like I was saying a few minutes ago, and so I had to really start prioritizing my education. So I kind of put it on the back burner. I think when the idea kind of really started to come in my head and creep in my head more was when actually university got hard. And like I know it sounds like contradicting, like school got hard, so then you started to like kind of look into other things. But that's really what it was. Like it kind of became like an outlet for me. And so I started to look into like how would I make content, what camera gear I would need. I spent like about like a year and a half just like researching camera gear and everything like that. This was in college, so I didn't do anything in high school. And then finally, like my third year of college that summer while I was interning, that's when I made my first YouTube video, just like a YouTube channel intro video. And then from there, I'd like to say the rest is history, but I haven't made that many videos. So, the history's still being written. But that's kind of how I stumbled into it.
So I saw a couple of your videos like from the beginning, and then you started off like a pretty, I would say, like the quality wasn't the highest, and then there's this like high quality videos. How do you like get there so fast? Like was it a huge learning curve? Like how did you do that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, so I'll be honest. So what I did was that third year summer, I was also interning. And alhamdulillah, I was able to get like a pretty good internship, so I was getting paid well. So I invested most of my money that I made from that into like good quality gear. Because I was like, I've saved up money throughout university and I've been pretty smart about it. So this money I'm gonna spend on something that I want and I'm passionate about. So I invested in some good quality gear. And then I have a friend who also makes content that has like an Adobe subscription. So then I spent like hours and hours and hours watching how to do certain like edits and stuff like that for Premiere Pro. And then just I would spend hours editing. Like I'm talking like 14, 15 hours of just straight learning how to edit, chopping up video, chopping up audio, and trying to make sure that it flows good. And yeah, that's basically what it was. Like it was just a lot of time invested into perfecting my craft, but it's still not perfect. Like, there's still so there's like the editing side behind things, the way I see it, and then there's like the psychology behind making videos. Like how are you going to make viewers stay and want to watch the video? Cuz at least on YouTube, audience retention is a huge thing, right? You need to retain audience. If they're only staying for like a minute or two of the video and your video is like 9 minutes long, in a sense, you've kind of failed. Like you weren't able to appeal to them enough to make them stay, right? So you really need to make your videos engaging enough to the point where they want to stay for the entire like 7 to 9 minutes. I mean, the way I think of it is like the best person is like, in terms of like audience retention, would be like David Dobrik, right? Like the dude can really he makes like these 4 minute and 20-second videos, but the reason is because he wants people to stay the entire time so he can be paid for the all those ads that are being run on his video, and his video is being pushed up the algorithm, right? It becomes like a whole game. Like, is the algorithm gonna pick up your video because people are watching most of it versus like people watch a minute, it's not liked, so the algorithm just either pushes it down. I don't know if it does that or just doesn't push it up.
Wow. So like how do you balance the two between making content to like have an outlet, that kind of thing, and then like the algorithm, audience retention, and all the psychology, like how do you balance the both?
I think that comes down to like, just like I was saying, like sometimes it's meant to be and it's written for you, and then sometimes it's not written for you, right? So kind of just, as different as this sounds compared to other, traditional YouTubers, like bro, just making dua, like, praying to God that, it's gonna happen, like your video is gonna pop off or it's gonna be pushed. And sometimes it's the videos that you unexpect the most. Like my consulting videos, I thought those were super boring at one point when I made them, but those have done the best on my channel, right? So it's the things that you least expect that kind of really make it, or make, like, make it or break it for you in that sense.
So how did you decide that you're going into pre-med, said that I want to become a doctor, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I was set into that like after my dad kind of got sick. Um, And I think like I'm a huge people person, right? And that thing about medicine attracts me the most because like right now I'm working in business and it's in consulting, right? So I get to work with people. That's why I love it the most. I could never see myself being someone that's just sitting behind a desk and working in Excel all day, right? Like that's what a lot of the business jobs are. But consulting appealed to me the most because you're able to work with other people. You're always constantly talking to people, traveling, and that's what really drew me in. And I think it's the same thing about medicine. Like I'm really drawn to it because of the people aspect, right? Like I really love working with people, and it was the same thing behind the YouTube channel. The goal was to always just like collab with people. I haven't gotten to that because I haven't had enough time, but the goal is always to work with people, put a smile on people's face, and being people driven. That's what kind of attracted me to medicine.
Wow. That's interesting, because uh, I think a lot of people who go into medicine, they have like a like similar nature where they, they love to work with people, and that's why a lot of them gravitate towards medicine. And I want to dive a little bit into like how did you go about like prioritizing your studies in uni and then also making content?
Um, I think that was kind of like I knew that I had to get the grades that I wanted to get into medicine, um, versus I knew that YouTube would always be around. And so um, I think that there were also times like I didn't prioritize YouTube because I started so much later in uni, and it was in my head since freshman year. So first year, but I started third year. But I knew that it would always be around, right? And then I was saying I didn't have like I limited myself because I thought I didn't have the tools that I needed. But like, and honestly, anyone with a camera phone these days like should be able to make content, right? This is more than enough to be able to make content if you think about it. So I limited myself, but once I kind of got started, the way I prioritized it was I sometimes skipped out on like, going and chilling with friends, right? I would be editing videos or something like that. That happened a few times. Most of the time, I'd be able to hang out with everyone, but I think like you can't have it all. So I gave up sleep, right? So everyone gives up one thing. I had a social life. I tried to do YouTube as much as I could, and I try to maintain my grades as much as I could. And the thing that I gave up was sleep. So you got to give up something. There's no like way to say, oh, I'm gonna have it all, because there's only 24 hours in a day, right? So you can only do so much of everything. So you kind of just got to pick and choose, like, what are you going to give up? And I think the way I was able to prioritize it was giving up sleep. Now I don't recommend this, and it's not the healthy thing to do, but that's, if I look back, that's how I did it. Like when I first started editing, I would edit for like 8 hours. Like I would start after Isha prayer and like around like 10, and I would get done around Fajr. Like when I would walk out of the room around Fajr time, like a lot of the success I have, I attribute to my mom and like her du'as, and she would always be like, "Inshallah, this video does well, right? Inshallah, this one does well." Because when I would walk out, she would see the amount of hard work that I'd put in. Because from 10 p.m. all the way to 6 a.m., that's 8 hours, right? Just of straight sitting there and like editing on the computer, and like it gets to you. So like that's how I did it, if I'm being honest.
That's like very intense, like sitting down for 8 hours. So after Isha till Fajr. Wow. So I want you to dive a little bit into. Wait 1 second. Like you mentioned in one of your videos that you would like to keep it real, like yourself being a Muslim, like you show that you're praying and whatnot. So like, do you think this is going to affect or some way uh, affect the audience retention or like the different or put off some kind of audience or that kind of thing? Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I did think about that, right? Like, you think like, oh, these people don't talk about like their Muslim background and stuff like that, and they try to keep it hidden. But like at the end of the day, like my faith is a higher priority than me making videos for people. And I think that, me prioritizing my faith and putting it out there really speaks to I'd like to think it also speaks to my character of like, I'm not trying to put on a fake facade for people to watch or like that ideal life that a lot of YouTubers do. Yeah, that content might sell, but I'm not gonna be fake and hide my religion if I have to do that. And I'd like to think that, me prioritizing my religion, I'll also be rewarded for that, not now, but like say if not now, like I hope now as well, like the channel pops off, like I'm at 1 million subs one day, right? But if not now, then in the hereafter, because I wasn't a sellout. I wasn't like, I'm gonna hide my religion, people aren't gonna like this and that. And I think in today's day and age, people are pretty accepting of religion too, right? Like they're not really gonna be judgmental of what religion you practice. If your content is good, they're gonna gravitate towards it, right? Like I'm personally, I wouldn't categorize myself as like a Muslim YouTuber. Like I'm not, like I do, my religion is out there. People do know about it. I speak about it in my videos, but I'm not recording like straight Islamic content. Now, if I was doing that, I would say, yeah, there's going to be people who are put off by it more. But I think I'm kind of in that area where like, it's the like fooling around type of content or informational content to where it's kind of religion. People aren't gonna look at my religion and be pushed away from my content. But maybe yeah, if I was making Islamic videos only, some non-Muslims wouldn't be attracted towards that because it doesn't appeal to them. But I think I'm kind of in that place where it doesn't really matter as much. But I still want to make it known that I am a Muslim and I do practice Islam. And if someone doesn't respect that, then I don't really care for their views. And you kind of got to be strict in that and firm in your stance of your religion because that comes first and then content creation comes second.
Oh, that's really interesting. You put the point where there's a difference between making strictly Islamic videos, Ramadan vlogs, Ramadan clothing and whatnot, and like being like a content creator who's just open about his faith. So, did you see yourself moving forward that you might have a creative agency, or have you like worked with people, being a photographer, videographer, that kind of thing?
No, so I haven't really worked with people in terms of like having a creative agency. I just haven't thought that far ahead. Maybe there comes a day where like I'm making so much content that I need people's help to back me up, and I need like that whole agency thing. And if it does come down to that, I'll look into it and I'll think about it. But it just hasn't come down to that yet. And in terms of like videography and photography, um, I think for me, I don't really gravitate towards videography for clients as much. Maybe pictures, like capturing the moment for people that I know. I've done that a lot. Like I've done a lot of photography for family and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about maybe branching out and offering like services in terms of like photography for people. But for me, it was personally just kind of like the personal content creation and things that I enjoy creating. Not so much so as being a videographer or photographer for other people.
Okay. So, so how's the consulting been like with the pandemic and everything? Obviously, you won't be like hanging out with a lot of people, a lot of Zoom calls, Skype calls, and whatnot. So, how's it been?
Yeah, yeah. So there's been a lot of that, right? Like kind of Zooming and Skyping. I'm kind of fortunate. The company that I got hired with, they wanted everyone to be in person. So I kind of have 40 other people who I work with in office. Like I go to office every day. I live about 10 minutes from it. So from that perspective, it's been great because I've been able to meet people and kind of get to know people. And it's been like a good experience. Moving forward, I don't know if companies are going to travel as much, but I'm looking forward to it. And they said that my role does include travel. So I don't know. We'll see where things go. But hopefully the world's opening up a little bit more and we don't have to worry too much about the pandemic.
So, like, can you tell us a little bit about like what kind of consulting you do? It's healthcare consulting, but is it like technology? You sell technologies, or how does that go?
Yeah, so I transitioned away from specifically healthcare consulting. This new job is more technology implementation. So the company I'm working for, they the product that I'm on, we help implement HR software. So human resources kind of like when someone is hired as a new employee, all their information gets stored in there, as well as they try to figure out like how they're gonna connect that to payroll, like how much this person gonna get paid, what skills this person has to make them successful in a role. So like if a manager has a new project and they need someone who's really good at like data visualization, our system kind of has all the skills that employees have, so they can just go in there and look at which employees have data visualization, what projects they've been on, and then they'll try to recruit that employee of the company onto their project, so they can help serve the clients. So it's more technology based, and I guess you could say like I'm on the HR product consulting, but they also have like a finance and supply chain product, and they also have like a manufacturing product. But yeah, I kind of transitioned away from healthcare consulting just because the I guess job market wasn't doing too hot during the pandemic, and this was like the job that I was offered this and another job, and this one ended up being better, and I liked the more consulting aspect of it, so I took this. So I guess I would say I'm more in like the product technology consulting space right now.
Okay, so like you said, you've been applying to medical schools and whatnot. So sometimes, in life, it's like where some things don't work out for us. I want to know what keeps you driving, because you seem to be like going at things like very intensely.
I would say like I don't know, like I've in terms of life, like I feel like I've been through a lot, like with my dad and everything, getting sick. So I would say like like I always saw him working really hard, and so I kind of from that I learned like you can either accept your situation and throw a pity party for yourself, like oh man my life sucks, like I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, or you just keep on working one day at a time towards your goal, and there'll be a day when you'll be rewarded for that, right? Like I kind of spoke to not doing too hot on like the SATs, when applying to college, but I kept working at other things that I knew I was good at, and I was rewarded for that. I got a scholarship. Obviously, it wasn't just my work. There was, I was granted that through the mercy of Allah. But I kept on doing my part of one step towards my goal a day versus just sitting there and being like, I give up. If you give up, you're never gonna achieve that goal, and you're never gonna know if you were ever gonna achieve that goal because it was past something that you were willing to even go towards, right? Like, say if the goal is 10 miles away, you stopped at 5, right? Versus if you get to 10 miles where the goal is and you realize you don't get that goal, but you get something else because of all the other work you put in, right? But if you stop at 5, it's 5 miles away. You don't know what's in those 5 miles or what you'll learn in those 5 miles, who you'll meet within those 5 miles that can change your life forever, right? But if you go those 10 miles and you fail, now you have all this other experience, all these other connections that you can leverage towards achieving something else. Or if you want to keep on pursuing that goal, which is further now, right? Than you expected it to be at first.
Wow. This really brings a quote from Atomic Habits to my mind, where James Clear said something along the lines of, it's not the trophy that you're working for, it's the person that you'll become. The trophy in itself does not have anything. It's a piece of metal, but the
You
person you
mentioned that,
become.
right? Look at this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's right here by my bed. Like I bought the book and I've been so busy like just with moving into my new place that I haven't been able to read it, but it's something that I'm looking forward to.
So he says something along those lines, it's like the person you become. The trophy in itself is a piece of metal, right? It doesn't have any intrinsic value of itself. It's the person we become, the character we build over the struggles and whatnot. That is the thing that's going to matter.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to ask what's next for them. Or you graduated out of uni, now you're working. What's next for you?
Yeah, man. I'll be honest, I don't really know. Like like I said, like there's a few things that I'm working on. I'm working on applying to schools. And I'm also, what is it called? I guess, like, working my job. And I'm making content on the side. So I guess, I'm just taking it one day at a time, and we'll see what happens, right? Like, you always think you want to do one thing, but I don't know what's best for me, right? Only Allah knows. So whatever He kind of says is best for you, I guess I'll realize that in a few years, and whatever path He pushes me towards, I'll go towards. Like I said, like, I'll try all these things, and whatever's best will happen. You're really making me reflect right now, right? Like, I can only put in the effort towards what I think is best, but at the end of the day, He's the best of planners. So whatever He has planned, I'll accept and kind of go with. I realized that after, like, I went through, like, these bad scores and stuff like that throughout college. And, like, I always say this, like, I'm not the perfect student, right? But I am that person who will go the extra mile to make sure that someone is comfortable if they are my future patient, right? Someone might not. Your super smart person might, just deal with them quickly and move on. They might not. They might offer the same level of care that I want to offer as well. But, like, as someone who's not super smart, I'll be willing to say that, I'll go the extra mile. And I think everyone should, towards, making sure that, our future patients are served really well. And if it's not that, if it's content creation, I'm happy with that too, right? Like, whatever's written, I'll kind of accept and move forward with that. So I don't know. I'm just trying all these things, and hopefully whatever's best happens.
Uh, that sounds like, you're, from what I'm hearing, like you're really accepting of whatever is there. Be like, Alhamdulillah, let's roll with that kind of thing, instead of being like, oh, I wanted to go over here and now I have to deal with this kind of thing.
I mean, like, I was like that, right? Like, when I got this job, I was like, all my friends are relaxing during their gap year, but I'm having to work, right? Like, make sure that, like, everything is kind of secure with, like, my family, and, like, as much as I can help out and things like that. I'm the oldest child, right? But then you also have to look at it. I started to look at it from the other perspective of, right? Like, I'm blessed to have a good job, right? Like, if versus, like, I don't have this, then I would have been in a even worse, even, like, more worse of a position where now I don't even have a job and I'm just sitting at home, right? So I'm blessed with that job to just kind of accept it. And I'm not gonna say, there were times when I had a crappy day. Like, I was like, man, I didn't achieve what I wanted to within the time frame, and I did beat myself up over it. But once you get through that, it doesn't do anything for you, and you have to still move forward. So you might as well start moving forward and try to avoid all that. So that's not to say you shouldn't, like, take a day off or two off to kind of process your emotions, your feelings, and, like, do whatever you need to do to kind of get back up on the horse. But I always say, do get back up on that horse. Don't just give up and be like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
So, Taimur, before we conclude, three questions for you. I ask all my guests these questions just to bring a lot more perspective in life. So these are like the perspective questions. So, if you were to meet three people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Man, I don't know. Like, I would say, like, my dad is one, right? Like, I'd want to meet him again. In Jannah, inshallah. And then I would say, like, the other two, like, I would say like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'd like to see meet him because he kind of went through, like, a lot of adversity, right? He overcame that, brought, like, an entire ummah behind him for, like, the deen and stuff. And, like, I really like those people who kind of come from nothing, in a sense, right? And then they really make it, right? And to me, whenever I kind of hear of his story, that's what it sounds like to me, right? Like, his mom died, his dad died before he was born, mom died really young, um, and then, he kind of, he became a prophet, right? Like, what more, like, could you want from life? And, like, the third person, I'd say like I don't know, this kind of hard. Like I would say maybe like not to like sound narcissistic, but like my future self. Like I'd like to meet my future self in the present moment if I could, to see where I end up, like to see what I end up achieving um in life, right? Like if everything that I say, did I really stick by that, or did I kind of teeter and was I just saying it to be performative, right? Like you say things and you think you believe in them, but a lot of the times, do you actually really believe in them, right? So to kind of see like what a success I have achieved, and to see if I really stuck by what I was saying.
Wow, that really resonates with the name of the podcast, Let's Walk. It's about taking action, right? A lot of people talk about what they're going to do, 10 this, I'm going to do this or that, but it's like, do we take action on a daily basis on that? And the second question is, if you could start all over again, what would you do differently? If
Man,
not the
okay.
whole life, at least like, if not the whole life, maybe like 5, 10 years before, if you were to start all over, what would you tell the younger Temur?
I would say pick up a camera. Like, if you go back and you look at my Facebook, I've always had it in me to kind of try to do this. I was also in drama when I was younger. I used to do acting, like improv. So I'd say pick up a camera. Like, what do you have to lose? You don't have anything to lose, right? That's one thing I would say. In terms of education and everything like that, like everything happens for a reason. So I don't think I would change anything. I could sit here and say I would maybe not get a business degree, maybe studying science only would be easy, but then who knows, maybe I wouldn't be in the position to have the job that I have now, right? So everything happens for a reason, and it happens for the best. And that's not our plan, that's Allah's plan, so I don't think I would change much. I think I would everything's okay the way it is, right? Like in terms of that what I could do, I think I would just let it be, other than pick up a camera earlier. Um yeah, that's really about it.
So the last question is, as we walk in life, we leave behind footprints. And as you walk more in life, if you were to take the last step on this planet Earth, what do you want to be remembered for?
I would say I would want to be remembered for what I've done for other people. I wouldn't want to be remembered for like any achievement, right? Like there's because your achievements are only remembered for so long, right? Like it's kind of like you know the day you die, right? Like people will mourn your death like 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, right? And then less and less people think about you, and then as a week goes on, even less people think about you, and then as like 2 3 years go by, like maybe your close family will think of you, right? Or they'll visit your grave, right? But those connections that you make with like individuals, right? Not masses of people, like individuals, right? Those connections are remembered a lot longer versus what you've done for um like masses of people, right? I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but I would say like those individual connections that I make, I would be want to be remembered for those versus like I don't know, like not like if I could solve world hunger and be remembered for that, I'd want to be remembered for that. But anything lower than that, I don't really care for. I'd want to be remembered for like the amount of people who I've touched throughout my life.
Uh, the point you mentioned, right, about like being connected with each people, like people individually, like we the way social media and everything, the internet, you see like 1,000 people, but if you were to actually see 1,000 people like in real life, that would be like a lot of people. Even 100 people would be a lot, right?
Yeah.
And
No,
like we sometimes, it's easy to take numbers so lightly, like it's just 100 people or just 1,000 people, but 1,000 people is like a lot of people. And if you were to touch each of their lives individually, that would be like the best thing, I would say.
yeah, yeah. So that's the goal. Maybe hopefully moving forward, like I'm able to make content, that puts a smile or two on a person's face, right? Or like a smile on one person or two people's faces. And yeah, that'd be like enough, really.
So people listening and watching this brings us to the end of the episode. I hope you guys took something out of this, and let me know in the comments below, like, what did you take from this? Other than that, you guys know what to do. Stay blessed, keep taking action. We'll catch you in the next episode.